Welcome to today's session of Can We Talk? My name is Deidre Moss, and I am the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, a motivator, and a talk connoisseur. Today, we will begin our series on Can We Talk Politics. Leading the charge, leading the way, is Senator Ranard Henfield. I'm so excited to have him here today. And based on the current landscape, we want to feature some persons who are putting themselves forward for political leadership. Mr. Senator Henfield, has already done that. And so I know that he's able to share his insight and his experience. And so today I have the honor of featuring Senator Henfield, Ranard Henfield. And at this time, I want to pass the virtual mic to him to have him introduce himself.
Good afternoon, Ms. Moss, and again, a pleasure to be here with you today. I think I've been doing these types of sessions with you in another place for a few years now, so congratulations on this platform. I am a father of two girls. I'm a girl dad. That's my claim to fame. And I'm married. My wife is Trinidadian. We've been together. This week makes 16 years to be exact. And I'm an attorney by profession. I am also an activist, and I've been an activist since sometime in the 90s. And I think as an activist, that's how I got to where I am today. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Henfield. Like I said, I'm excited to have you on board today. And thank you for your introduction. So can we talk politics?
Of course, let's do it.
You know, that's a heated subject in our parts of the world, right?
Oh, it sure is.
Yeah.
It's divided many households and ended many friendships.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Yes. And so let's talk about your background. Okay. So tell us a little about yourself. Why did you decide to enter politics? And why did you choose your political party, if you were tied to any political party?
Okay, so, wow, I don't know if I would ever say, even 4 years in, that I chose politics. I've been an activist, like I said, from the 90s, and I grew up on East Street and Wolf Road. So I found myself as a young teenager advocating for persons in the community. And I then went on to COB at the time, College of the Bahamas, now University of the Bahamas. And I got involved in the student union to do just what I was already doing, make a difference and speak up for persons who were not able to speak up for themselves. So I got involved with the student union there. From there, I moved to Trinidad and Tobago, where I started my law degree, my LLB. Then went to London. When I got to London, found myself again in the student union. I think I became president of the student union there in my first year of arriving in London. And it was because there I was in England, a campus with predominantly European students, and the Bahamian, other Caribbean students. We had no voice. And for me, walking the door, I felt, where are the people that look like me, that sound like me, who's hearing us, who's making a difference for us. And I offered myself to assist, and I became the president of the student union then. I came back home in 2003. And before, I would have launched the Caribbean AIDS Awareness Foundation and Festival, which was to move around the region, raising awareness about HIV and AIDS. So again, activism. In 2009, as an attorney at 6 years called at the time, having been called to bar in 2003, it's now 2009. And I noticed as an attorney, the Bar Association didn't have any system in place to constantly train us further education. So you had young lawyers like myself going to court against somebody like a Pro Pinder, a Wayne Monroe, Willie Moss, etc. And who was there to train us, to help us learn more areas of the law, etc., make sure we were on par. And there was nothing in place. So I began agitating. The Bar Association didn't do it. So I created something that was called the Junior Bar Committee of the Bahamas Bar Association in 2009. That survives to this day. And it trains lawyers of all ages, not just the young lawyers anymore, but from 2009 to now, it trains all lawyers from the moment you're called, continuous education on how you can learn different areas of law. So again, an activist. I think then in 2015, I live in the Kamiko Road area. And I felt there was a lacking of socializing, educating, and empowering the community. So again, I found myself as an activist creating what is called today the Our Kamiko Community Initiative, which was designed in '05 to do just that: socialize the residents, educate us, and empower us. We did sessions like we were bringing in the banks to teach us why we should not get mortgages and loans, how to pay them down and pay them off. We brought in doctors to speak to us on our health, business persons on how to get started in business, etc. Family planning, and again, it was just to socialize, educate, and empower. Then fast forward to 2016, I just felt as a young Bahamian that our voices weren't being heard by the political parties. So then I created and launched what is called the We March movement. And rather than us rioting or spray painting the places and carrying on, that we would organize to raise awareness on national issues that the people felt passionate about and wanted to address. So that's how the We March movement came about. And then I got that call in May of 2017 to ask if all the things that I was agitating for, if I'd be willing to take an independent seat in the Senate. Apparently there were 3 consultative seats at 38, 37 years old. I had no idea that the Constitution spoke to 3 consultative seats. So I looked into it, and sure enough, it was a seat where you would be independent, allowed to speak freely, agitate as you wish. So I accepted the seat, which caused endless controversy. And that's how I got to where I am today.
Thank you. You talk about the controversy, so we're not going to talk. We're not going to touch that if you don't want to. We're not going to touch it. But
I am so comfortable. That's fine.
You comfortable with it?
I am so comfortable.
Okay. You want to talk about the controversy that you feel that it would have caused?
Sure. Like one thing I'll say before I even say anything about it, I think we as a people, and you raised a point in the beginning. You said, I've already done this, and there are persons who are interested in getting involved into politics or national leadership. You have to learn to get comfortable in an uncomfortable place. You can never be a leader if you are uncomfortable. When people say, oh, it's an uncomfortable topic, or I don't want to go there, something is wrong. You can't get in leadership positions and be uncomfortable in an uncomfortable place. You have to get
That is
comfortable.
powerful. That is powerful in and of itself. That's powerful. Wow.
So I'm very comfortable. So I'd say this much. When I led every cause or movement I did in the past, it was me bringing other people to the table to get themselves in trouble with me. I can go as far back as COB back in 1996. I bucked head with UB, at the time COB, the president of COB, the vice presidents of COB, on you will not raise the school fee for us. You will not. You will provide us a facility for students to socialize after class, take a break, study, etc. And it was constant bucking heads. And what I watched back in the late 90s, persons who were supporting me get themselves in trouble with the powers that be. And I looked at that and thought to myself, geez, it takes a bunch of us to raise awareness and make a difference. But this was my idea. I don't need these people behind me getting in trouble. When I when I went to England and started and became the president of the student union, a lot of them before me coming there was like, hey, we come here, we stay in our lane, we sit small, we say nothing. If they don't address things, we just leave it as that. And I watched again as I started agitating that it caused problems for people around me with their families saying, don't get caught up in standing up, just go there, do your degree and come home. Same thing when I did the Caribbean AIDS Awareness Festival, and I did the Junior Bar Committee for the Bar Association. Every time I stood up, I found there were people who were around me who were standing up and probably just couldn't take the chafing as I could, or didn't feel as fearless as I felt. And I watched how it impacted their lives, etc. And I did We March. I honestly, with God as my witness, felt when I went into We March, I might get maybe 100 people to support, and it'd be a small group. It's not putting 20 people at risk. It turned out into, when I marched in New Providence, there was one going on in Grand Bahama. There was one in Abaco. There's one in Exuma. There are people in London, people in Toronto, people in the States showing their pictures of them in Black in full support and solidarity. And then I got the call after the first march for persons who marched saying, we were just fired. I was fired because I supported the march and my boss doesn't support what you did, and I lost my job. And I wrote checks. I'm live. I wrote checks from my office to pay people's rent, to give people to buy grocery. And I felt guilty as hell. Like, if you weren't standing up, these people wouldn't have lost their jobs. So I did another march in January and got the calls again. You're not, they fired me. This is victimization, which it is. And there was nothing I could do to get these people their jobs back. So when fast forward to May and the call is, are you willing? And the way I translate the call is, are you willing to get yourself in trouble by yourself to make a difference? Or do you want to keep marching and putting people at risk? And I weighed that and I prayed about it. I spoke to both my priests, Father Cartwright, Father Saunders. Sunday, they both called me back and said, Ranard, you take the consultative seat, you'll be able to push these issues, but understand you'll be putting a target on your back where you will be hated. People won't understand because you are now going to say, okay, I'll take the heat by myself and agitate these things, speak truth to power right in their face in Parliament. You're going to be putting a target on you. But at the same time, you're not putting 1,000 people at risk when they go there to march, or hundreds of people. And I made that choice. I have never publicly explained the decision, and I'm doing it today with you. But while it's controversial to people, either way, do I keep marching and putting people in the streets in the hundreds and thousands off their jobs at risk of being arrested, at risk of being assaulted, at risk of being hit by some police officer or dragged in the streets and all this nonsense? Or do I just say, you know what, whatever comes, let me just take the heat by myself? And that's why I did what I did. So it's controversial to some. My family, my priest and I, while we know why I took that route, and I feel like it has made a difference without putting people at risk, I'm comfortable speaking about this uncomfortable topic. Very comfortable.
And that's such a powerful nugget. I mean, I really wish I could write that down. You cannot enter leadership without feeling uncomfortable and taking some hits. And if you're a person, you're interested in leadership, expect some criticism.
Yes. Oh yeah.
We're definitely gonna get into that. But your experience, and you've been in the political system for a few years. Um, I would refer to you as a seasoned. You're young, but I would refer to you as a seasoned politician. Is that okay?
Please. They just plucked the feathers out of me. I'm just sitting in the kitchen sink about to be rinsed off. You ain't seen nothing yet.
I would refer to you as a seasoned politician because you've been in politics for a few years. And how would you describe your experience, good and bad?
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of emotions. There are months when you will be just angry, frustrated, disappointed. And then you will start climaxing because you'll see something in the pipeline that is going to make a big difference for the people that you've been fighting for, and you get all excited. And then after that, you realize there's another issue, because when you are in national leadership roles, every given day, there are at least 25 fires to out. So you go through this emotional roller coaster. As fast as you do something to make a difference for the people, something happens. And then you're working on something else and something happens. So it's a roller coaster of emotions. It is time consuming. Today, I literally was able to do about an hour of work in my legal profession, because I got a call yesterday from one minister that I'm needed at his ministry to meet with the team to explain my vision for a project and how it is to roll out. I get there thinking, please let this be a 1 hour meeting. And then I'm there for 3 hours with everybody going back and forth on how this thing is to work. Meanwhile, my client is calling myself when I can't take the call. Thank goodness he reaches out to my assistant, was able to explain he's not available. Come to the office, she'll take care of everything. I get out of that meeting, call the client back, and he's like, "Where were you?" I can't tell him where I was, and he's upset. Him and his wife have to, reschedule this thing all the way to next week, Tuesday. So it is time consuming. It's a roller coaster of emotion, and it's detrimental to your business. It's detrimental to your family life. It's detrimental to your romantic life, and it ages you. It will age you very fast. So, in the 4 years, it's demanding, it's stressful, and that's just in serving the capacity as a senator. So I can't imagine what it's like for somebody who's the minister of something or the prime minister of the country, the governor general of the country, even someone like the commissioner of police. It must be a nightmare. In addition to me serving as a senator, I'm chairman of the Cabinet Advisory for Local Government. That's another time-consuming aspect. And then I was elected back in 2019 as vice president for the Caribbean parliaments. And any given week, there is something to do at the regional level. So if you think there's fires at the national level, at the regional level, there's fires every single day, every single week. There's meetings like last week where I'm on a panel with the OAS, every country from Canada down to Chile and the Caribbean. 2-3 weeks before that, you're presenting to the Freedom of Information commissioners from around the world. So it is time consuming. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and it is definitely detrimental to your business, your family life, and you do it all thinking, this is bigger than me and my 2 kids and my wife. This is for the country or for the region. So you do it knowing it is detrimental and time consuming.
Thank you for that, because sometimes I guess when persons they think about entering the system, sometimes you just think about the good, and we don't often think about the bad that comes along with it. I don't want to say necessarily bad, but the responsibilities that comes along with the position. And I want to thank you for that holistic explanation of what is required of you. It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot. And so with that, it's a lot. And with that comes harsh criticism. And I know that you are familiar with that. We know and understand that this is a part of the political landscape. How would you recommend upcoming politicians deal with harsh criticism?
How would I recommend they deal with it? I'm no expert. What I'd say to you is, and I'm going to liken it to right to my left as my 4-year-old who no longer wants to watch Hatchimals, and she insists she's going to lay next to me and listen to this show. So you're going to, unfortunately, that's Raina. She may interrupt.
Hi.
And it's like my kids. And for anyone listening, anyone that will watch this over time, when you get involved in politics, it is like you taking care of a child, that you will give of yourself. And this child doesn't care for a second that her father is a lawyer. She doesn't care how her father pays her school fee. She doesn't care how her father feels, if he's tired and whatnot. She just knows, wake me up, bathe me, make my breakfast, pack me in the car with my lunch, take me to school, go and do whatever you do, be back here to pick me up, bring me home. And that is the same thing with national politics. The people, the electorate, don't care how you're doing. They just know you say you can help, now help. Now you said you can help with these one thing, but since that day, here's 100 more fires that have erupted, and we need you to address them. And if you fail on 1 out of the 10, I can assure you, you will be seen as a failure. You can do the hell of good, and you know it in your personal life. You could be there for your family and friends every time. Like one time you can't be there for them, Deidre, you never do nothing for nobody. And unfortunately, that is what it's like in fun. But if you go in there thinking, I'm doing this for recognition, thanks, and a pat on my back, then you're wrong. You have to come into this knowing, when I go there to try and do something on education, there's somebody who's going to be pissed that you now have free tertiary education, because their school, which they've gone and sacrificed to establish, students won't be coming there necessarily in the volumes before, because it's now free tertiary education. If you go and you do something like access to affordable home and affordable land, there's some real estate agent, somebody's going to be pissed because the government is now cutting him out the picture, cutting the lawyer the picture to make sure Deidre and everybody else can afford a home. There's somebody who sells appliances here, fridge, stove, air conditioner, etc., furniture, that's going to be pissed at you, the politician, because you've now passed a law that said they could bring in their stuff duty-free to save them money. So if you're doing these things and you're expecting that, somebody's going to come every day to hug you and pat you in the back and say, great job, trust me, you're in the wrong field, you're the wrong passion. This is something where it is just sacrifice, you're in service. So when you hear a person say, I want to be of service, that person is different from the person who says they want to lead. I will support anybody who wants to serve before I support somebody who says, I want to lead you. Because the leader isn't the person who's coming to do the heavy lifting, the sacrifice that family time, that business time, the nights and their health. You want someone who's there to serve. So if you're interested in politics, you need to understand servant leadership, where you're here to serve the people. Something as simple as when I get to the Senate every day, and persons who are downtown would see there are people who are there to lift the barricades for parliamentarians. And I get in my car every time, park in the street and say, don't you touch it. Don't touch it. I will lift it myself, lift that barricade, put it on the side and pull in because I am here to serve you. You ain't here to serve me. Don't give me my tea in no fancy cup. I will come with my mug from home. I will make my tea myself because we're here to serve. So if you're coming into this thing and you're going into this thing, come with it and go into it knowing you are here to serve, not to be served. There are some people who are doing it because they want to be minister of this, senator of that. They want the passport. They want the car. They want the plates. That's not what we need in this country. We need people to serve. Everybody wants to be the chief and nobody wants to be Indian. Everyone will be prime minister and minister, but nobody wants to do the lifting and the sacrifice, etc. So my advice to anybody coming in the door is only come in the door if you're here to serve and sacrifice. And if you can take Christmas, because you could do 99 things today for the people. But if tomorrow you can't do one thing, be prepared to hear, you ain't never do nothing for nobody. And get back up the next day and work on a new list of 100 every day without catching feelings.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about your initiatives and special projects. What special projects or initiatives are you working on within your community and in general in our overall society? And do you have any special causes that you're working on? I know that you have some type of work with disability. Hi, Raina.
Say hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Sorry.
I know you do some type of, you're passionate about disability and women's rights. And so
Yes.
whatever you want to talk about, feel free, whatever initiatives you're working on.
Okay, so initiatives. So I try to focus on what I'm passionate about. Like I said, any given day at that national level, there are 25 fires any given day. And you have to come in there with that mindset of, yes, there's going to be a debate on A to Z this month. There'll be some things I will not debate. And it's not, some people may look at it and be like, oh, Henfield didn't debate. Henfield didn't read the bill. I read the bill, but it doesn't fall in with my passions. All right. So I'm not going to jump on just to be heard. I'm not going to say something just to say something. So I don't do that. So my passions, like you pointed out again, obviously, you know what I'm interested in. It is persons with disabilities. So I have bucked heads, and I'll say publicly, bucked heads, stood in the front of the Prime Minister and said, I don't care what has not been done by any other government, but this government, before this term is over, is going to, for the first time in Bahamian history, set aside land for persons with disabilities. And I'll expand on that. Someone who is handicapped, someone who is deaf or blind, Deidre, and for anybody listening, they will not be paid the same thing you and I are paid in this country. They will not be. They, for the most part, get minimum wage. So when you talk about dignity, dignity is when someone is able to say, I could buy a piece of property, get a home, give them that dignity. And for them to do that, they got to be able to qualify for a mortgage. If you're only making minimum wage, less than 1,000 euros, 210. So you got an income of less than 1,000 a month. If they're married, that's $600 to $2,000 per month. What mortgage they can get for a piece of property? So I've asked and bucked heads and said, listen, I want to see land dedicated for persons with disabilities. And I got the call last year, Henfield, the Prime Minister is about to go live. and he's going to dedicate in the Kamiko subdivision, the Kamiko village subdivision, 10% of the lots to persons with disabilities. Yes, great. But please let him know that ain't gonna be enough. That's a great start. I appreciate that. As you know, with a community of 330 lots, 10% is 33 lots, that's 33 families, persons with disability is great. But I would like to see it done from now on with every subdivision from now on in this country. Set aside for them. The prime minister then goes one, I mean, he just decides I'm going to one up. And he says, you know what, in addition to them getting 10% dedicated to them, while the lot for the Bahamas is 15,000, for anybody with a disability, it's half off. So you've dedicated 10% to them. They got to get in, but then he's gone above and beyond and said, and it's going to be half off for them. And it's been established. So that is something I'm passionate about. I'm looking forward to seeing it more often. Another thing I'm passionate about is traffic accidents with respect to persons killed in the course of dangerous accidents or dangerous driving. I don't believe, and I buck heads with the AG in the Senate on it over and repeatedly. And I think persons, and even I say it sometimes to the president and the AG in the Senate, you must get tired of me agitating for the same things over and over. I know it's annoying, but that's why I'm here. And I make no apology for you. I'm just letting you know, I know it must be annoying, but I'm not going to apologize. But when someone knocks down someone in this country and kills them, make sure you understand what happens, Deidre. They go to court, they are given a $10,000 fine. Guess where that $10,000 goes to? The government of the Bahamas. But you've knocked down my family member that I have to go bury. And the government make 10 grand? Something wrong with that. So I've been agitating for the last 3 years. Could you please amend the law that if you kill somebody in the course of dangerous driving, that fine should be paid to the family to assist in the funeral expenses. Don't tell me, but that family can hire a lawyer to sue that person for wrongful death. Where didn't get the money from? Where didn't get the money from? We are the government. We have the authority to say today in the law, the recommendation is that the fine be paid to the next of kin. That person has children or they're married, whatever the case may be, or it's a child, the family should get a $10,000. That takes care of the funeral expenses at the very least. So that's one. Another thing I've been passionate about for the last decade is the family island cruise line industry. Because unlike the rich in this country, I do not believe in trickle-down economics. I believe it's BS. Don't tell me if you allow the rich to get richer, they'll hire more of the poor. I don't want to hear that. What I believe is you give the opportunity to the poor and the middle class to make money. Don't give it to the rich and tell them let it trickle down. So the family island cruise line industry is a way to diversify the tourism product, one, as opposed to just focusing on Nassau and Freeport. It then means, like, I guess I can say that meeting today with the Ministry of Tourism, that the cruise ships, persons now will fly into the Bahamas in a matter of 3 weeks for the first time in our history. Home porting is now finalized. And I mean, I've been fighting for this for 10 years, 4 years in Parliament.
What is that?
Go ahead, did you want to say something?
Can you explain that? What is that?
It's called home porting. Home porting. So before, if anyone listening wanted to go on a cruise, you would jump on a plane, you'd fly to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. That cruise ship would then sail out there, come to Nassau, go to Jamaica, go to the Cayman Islands, go to wherever, Belize, Mexico, etc. Now, what we've done is being able to do home porting, where starting in 3 weeks, Royal Caribbean ship will start and end in the Bahamas. So the world will have to fly into our airport. They'll have to stay at Airbnbs and hotels. And then the next day or whenever it is, 2 days later, they will then go to the dock of Prince George Wharf and board the cruise ship here. Which now means Bahamians, we don't have to fly to Miami to board a ship. It also means now the money that we were making when a tourist came off the cruise ship, we've just increased that because we've made them buy tickets to come to the Bahamas. We've then given the taxi driver a job at the airport. We've given the hotel a booking. We've given the Airbnb a booking. We've given restaurants the opportunity to now sell food, grocery stores to sell groceries, this person said, the Airbnb, etc. We've given car rentals an opportunity they would not have had prior to home porting. So the cruise ship will now leave. The last Royal Caribbean will start in 3 weeks. 3 weeks after that will be Crystal Cruises. That cruise ship will sail from Nassau to Bimini, Bimini to Eleuthera, Eleuthera to Exuma, Exuma to Long Island, Long Island to San Salvador, and back to Nassau and repeat every week. So that has been something I've been passionate about for years. And I mean, I'm glad and thank God to live to see the day that we have now the land for persons with disabilities. We have the cruise lines going to the Family Islands, which dumps $1 million a week into those 6 islands. So persons who are sitting there on the porch just wondering what to do now have an opportunity to make money and no nonsense, but no trickle down economics anymore. So that's the second thing. I have asked for quite some time that every August, I remember as a child going to Florida in August. My parents would never go prior to August because in August, there's that weekend where you didn't pay sales tax. And they would go and do our back to school shopping. So I've asked for quite some time now, due to VAT, if we can do the same thing in the Bahamas, where August is the month that you remove VAT to allow Bahamians to buy their back to school supplies, etc., VAT free. And that has been finalized as well. So that's another passion. Right now, just yesterday, I would have asked the Minister of Finance after we wrapped up in the Senate, kept him behind and said, Minister Thompson, could you please, I know the budget debate is coming up, but is there any way we could increase the stamp duty exemption for first-time homeowners from 250,000 to 300,000? He was very receptive yesterday, said he's going to have the ministry crunch the numbers to see if it can be done. But he asked me why, and I explained to him, for at least a decade, Deidre, if you want to buy a house and it's the first time you're getting a house, if it was valued at $250,000 or less, you got stamp duty exemption. If it costs more than $250,000 to pay the government tax. So forgive me as I have to open M&M for the 4-year-old. Okay. So the cost of living has gone up since then for the last decade. The cost of construction materials has gone up. The cost of labor has gone up. So with that, it then means what you could have billed for $250,000 a decade ago will now cost you at least $300,000. So it then means today, persons who are getting their first home, the time as they've constructed the home, it's 300 grand, so they're going to pay the government tax. So what I'm asking now and agitating, and you'll hear me agitate for during this whole budget debate process again, if it's not done prior thereto, my speech will be focused on how we can make a difference for persons trying to achieve the Bahamian dream of owning a home. We could save them $1,000 in tax if we do that. I won't say what is already in the pipeline, so he has some good news, but I would love to see that done as well. Another passion of mine coming into the Senate was the distribution of Crown land. Publicly and in the Senate privately, anybody who knows me know nothing bothers me as much as seeing a foreigner come to this country with an empty briefcase with a certain complexion, unable to get acres of our land, while we can't even get a 50 by 100 piece of land to build a house. So I agitated from We March into the Senate 2017, again 2018, and then 2019. The Prime Minister caused the audit to be done of Crown land in the country, and he started from Inagua, and he's now distributing Crown land to persons from the Family Islands. He's already gone from Inagua up to Abaco, and then we all know what's happening in Nassau with the many subdivisions where the Crown land is being distributed. Persons can now buy pieces of property in this country for 15 grand during this administration, as to prior thereto, if you want to buy a piece of property in Nassau, you're looking at least $60,000 to $80,000. So things like that, I believe, make a difference for the small man. And forgive me, and I know your audience is mixed. I have no interest whatsoever in the rich or making the rich richer. My focus, and I bias bad, public figure, but I bias bad. My only interest is the poor and the middle class. So those are some of the interests, some of the things I'm passionate about. And I guess the next thing would be the distribution of taxi and tour car plates. Based on who you know in this country, there are persons who have never driven a taxi, a jitney, a limo, or a tour car, but they got 20 plates. So we making the rich richer, while the poor man is out there struggling every day to the airport or the cruise port or hotel, trying to make $50 because that rich person who has 20 plates, they have to pay them any given month $500 to $1,500 for the plates, for government plates. So publicly, I say in the Senate over repeatedly, and I nag and I nag, and I will continue nagging until the moratorium is lifted. I've asked that every taxi, limo, tour car plate be recalled, and then those who are actually driving are able to come and show, here's my vehicle, as a driver, you see it being driven, I just surrendered somebody's plate, now give me my plate. And that's what I'd like to see happen. A lot of the things that I agitate for, like I say, it pisses people off because the person who has 20 plates will be pissed at me. The person who is selling land in this country that they got by quieting is pissed because now you're distributing crown land. The person who had a school or was hoping to open a school to charge people $1,000 for nursery or for some certification is pissed because now you're doing these things free for the people. So I think the final thing that I'm being passionate about is what I mentioned to you before, which is the local government. So I'm the chairman of the Cabinet Advisory Committee on Local Government, which has tendered our report to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet that we revamp this whole local government model in this country. And in 1 minute, I'll say to you, local government was created to give persons in districts and communities some say in what happens in their areas. I don't know any area in this country that the residents have a say in what happens in their area. So to me, the Local Government Act that's in place is a sham. I think it needs to be repealed entirely or amended to empower local government and the residents to make decisions in their areas. No way, when you live on Kamiko Road, you should be paving sidewalks in this pandemic. Did you ask the residents, what do y'all need in this area? We would not say we want sidewalks. We would say, you got $5 million to spend. This is how we like our $5 million spent. And I believe every community, every island in this country would be better off if the residents were able to say how they want the money spent that they pay in tax dollars in their communities. So that's my passion. And sorry for getting so passionate about it. Those are my concerns.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And, so many stuff I want to touch on as it pertains to the lots. And I know that you would have talked about agitating for persons with disabilities to be able to have access to those subdivisions, have access to those lots at a lower price. As it pertains
Right.
to that, is it open for persons to apply now?
Oh yeah, persons can go to dohbahamas.com. DOH, which should be the Department of Housing, Bahamas.com. When they get to the page, to the top right, you'll see the application fee, the application. It'll show you all the subdivisions as well. The only thing that's not live right now is the subdivision for young professionals, which is there on Prospect Ridge. That won't go live, to my understanding, until late summer. But
Okay.
persons with disabilities, I know, have already reached out, sent in their applications, et cetera, for those subdivisions. And the only thing that's required of them is to have a medical practitioner certify, because I can't send an application saying I'm disabled and just receive it. We should have some proof and verification from a medical practitioner that this person has XYZ disability. Okay.
Okay, so as it pertains to the young professional service lot, what is your
Yes.
thoughts on it? What is your take on it?
I'm an attorney, Deidre. I'm the client who I missed today is buying a piece of property that they're going to buy for about $250,000. My legal fees of that transaction is going to be in the thousands of dollars. And all of us who are attorneys who are listening will eventually watch this call will tell you that when you buy land, you need a lawyer, and we make money off that. We provide a service. But with this, all of these lots that the government is giving out, whether it's for the persons with disabilities, it's for Bahamians who want a $15,000 lot, $20,000 lot, or even down to these $50,000 lots. One of the great things is we have been cut out. My profession is cut out. I will not make a dollar. There's no lawyer who will make a dollar off it. So it saves you and the public and everybody listening legal fees, which is in the thousand. It cuts out the real estate agent 10%. So it saves you 10% and then 2.5%, because it's 10% for the real estate agent, 2.5% for the lawyer, and then the government wants that. And what we're saying is the stamp duty exemption kicks in if your home is under 250 now. I'm trying to get a raise to 300,000. In addition, everybody in every one of these subdivisions is allowed to import all of their building materials, import all of their home furnishing appliances duty free. So it would have cost you $400,000 before to build a nice duplex, etc. You'll find once you've cut out all those taxes and fees, you've already saved the average person 25 to 35% of their costs. So it's something I'm proud of. I think the PM and the administration should be applauded for it. It is a great concept because, again, to my mind, if you want to make a difference in your people, you educate them. So you now have free education from primary school, as a matter of fact, preschool, primary school, high school, tertiary education. And then you have to give them access to land, which you're now doing, because it makes no sense. I'm educated, but I can't afford the land. So you give them the education, you give them access to land. And then what about those who say, I want to be an entrepreneur? What's the next thing you need to give them? Access to capital. And as you all would know, the SBDC was created for that sole purpose, to give people access to capital, all the training you need on business plan, business development, and the funding. Some of it is grants, where you got to pay it back, and then some are low interest rate loans. So education, access to land, access to capital. And the only thing I think is left that I would love to see is a seat at a decision-making table. Hence the reason why I think local government needs to be reformed. So all those people, this education, these homes, these businesses can now make decisions for the community, as opposed to the cabinet making every decision for every community.
Raina's back again. Hi, Raina. And I want to, yeah, I want to touch on that because you did not talk about how much, and what I love that you do is you advocate for women and girls. You didn't talk about that, but let me just touch on the Small Business Initiative, the
Development
Small
Center,
Access
yes.
Accelerator. In speaking with entrepreneurs and business owners, small business owners, as it pertains to that aspect, a lot of them talk about the tedious application process. What are your thoughts on that? I know I know that's a question a bit off the wall.
No, that's fine. I'm getting ready to, with my wife, to open a business in November. It is something we've been working on. This is now May, since January. I mean, every week. And there's so many ticks. And I said to my wife early in the week, looking at these things now, that all this process you go through, it is to make sure that the business that we get into, the customers are safe. It is to make sure that the money that you will be lent by this lending institution, for instance, it's actually, there's a plan for how this money will be repaid, for instance. So I see systems in place for a reason. There's a part of me that doesn't like red tape. And there's a part of me that loves accountability. And it's always in striking that balance, that how do you remove as much red tape as possible, but ensure accountability is there. So imagine now how much millions of dollars have been giving out to the SBDC in the last year and a half or two. Imagine if you didn't have a system in place to make sure who you're giving the money to, first of all, is a Bahamian, that the business venture that they say they want to get into is actually a viable legal business venture, that they are actually going to be able to hire Bahamians and pay them a salary and NIB contributions, etc. So again, while a part of me wants to do away with as much red tape as possible, there has to be accountability. And the accountability isn't just in your business. The accountability is you are using taxpayers' dollars to give Deidre to start a business. Deidre, the days are gone where you could call me, hey, Senator Henfield, you can't find a way for me to get 50 grand from the government. Them days done. So now you need to sit in the classes so we know it's Deidre Moss. You now
Sure,
need
those
to
days over.
apply. Them days over. As a matter of fact, I think one of the recent acts we passed is the whole public procurement, that any contract is now going to be online. What I told you about 3 weeks ago, I had to chair the session of the Freedom of Information Commissioners around the world. That was done on a date, May 7th, specifically a conference that was planned since February or March. And we at the international level and the regional level is pulling back, waiting until the Bahamas drop our Freedom of Information Commissioner. And the moment he was announced Sunday, Monday morning, the notice came up for all these international bodies, Organization of American States, Pal Americas, Canada, the United States, every Caribbean country, down to and every South American and Central American country that on Friday we will meet for all of the Freedom of Information commissioners to understand your role. One of the things in your role is to make sure the public has access to every piece of information unless it is a national secret, it could cause national security issues, or it's given up the details in the contract. But the days of government, Deidre Moss made a contract to go build a school, and nobody know what Deidre bid, who else bid, how long Deidre company was formed, who the owners of the company, how the installments are paid, the work that's done. Those things are now public. So them days gone. So unfortunately, Deidre, with that, it then means
it's online. It has to be online.
It has to be, so the public procurement, it's e-procurement. So you're doing all that online. But if there's anything you need information-wise, whether it's a journalist, whether it's the opposition, whether it is just Joe Blow from the public, if you want to know who got the contract for this, if you want to, like I said to my wife the other day, Deidre, if you were deciding you're going to rent a place in the East, and you want to know from the Elizabeth State Police Station, how many rapes have happened in this Eastern District in the last year? The police would say to you right today, ma'am, I can't get information. But now with the Freedom of Information Commissioner, you go back, you put in writing to the officer in charge, I would like to know how many complaints were made with respect to housebreaking or rape in this area. You have 30 days. Here's the act that says so. And in 30 days, that Royal Bahamas Police Force will have an information manager who is keeping all this data and statistics and has to provide a general report saying there were 5 or 20. And if they fail to do so, then you can forward your complaint into the Freedom of Information of Commissioner's office that I requested this information 30 days ago from that police station or this ministry or this department. They have failed to provide it, and the Freedom of Information kicks in and gets that information and is able to provide it to you or say to you, this is a national security issue, which it would not be in that scenario, for instance, or who built the school, how much they were paid, how many persons bid. Those things you will now have access to. And if you just, anybody who's listening can go online and just Google Freedom of Information Bahamas, e-procurement Bahamas, all of these things you'll now see that is changing. Unfortunately, it's not sensational news. So it's not publicly debated as is whether or not to take the vaccine. So some things we miss because it's not sensational, but you do have now laws for the e-procurement process. You do have the commencement of the Freedom of Information Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. The Freedom of Information Commissioner is a judge, retired judge now from the Supreme Court. And then you have the Deputy Commissioner, which is Mr. Shane Miller.
Sorry, I just want to say Cheryl is, she's listening and she's saying, removing tax from the textbook during August is a great initiative. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. I agree.
But I want to thank you for sharing. And like I said, oh, and those are great initiatives, by the way. So that information has to be made available.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And I say publicly and privately that, and I keep going back to Deidre, the fact that any given day there are 25 fires to out. And I think sometimes it's like when I was just solely an attorney, I'll walk into my office any given day and my assistant say, Mr. Henfield, you have 30 cases in Supreme Court, you have 5 in the criminal court, you have 2 in divorce court, and it's like all these things to do. And I eventually had to then hire an assistant just for Supreme Court, an assistant just for Magistrate Court, because it's just so much to do. I get into activism and I realize it's the same thing. One day there's somebody saying, Ranard, they're giving 10,000 acres to the Chinese and Andros. We must fight. And you're like, what? Before I say anything, I need the facts. I just can't go off on being opinionated. I need to see where that came from. Let me do my research.
So true.
And then I can speak to it.
So true.
And somebody comes and says, Ranard, yeah. And then somebody says, Ranard, the hotel don't want the taxi drivers to park by the door no more. We need to do something about that. It's like, I hear you, but I need to hear from the person who's in charge of this taxi union first and speak to Atlantis and find out what's going on, what's the reasoning, what's happening, and then we can address it. So there's any number of fires, whether you are in private practice, it's the same way for those persons who are listening who's a parent in your home. This one got homework, this one hungry. It's a million things going on. I still have to say to you and bring to this point. In national leadership, it's the same thing, just amplified where every decision and everything affects thousands in your country on an island, also affects your country's name and credit and your dollar. And sometimes, unfortunately, I think those of us in politics and parliament, we forget to come back out to the public and say, hey, everybody, just want to take a break and let y'all know that you can now buy land for 7,500. Put a newspaper down, lose that real estate off agent's number, walk out the lawyer's office. This is how you guys can save 100 grand right here. And these are the equipment that you can ship into the country duty free. And here's the process. I think we forget that. And a lot of people would say that you are out of touch. But when you've done that, you're moving on now to this and this and this and this and this. You know, just at one meeting today, I could tell you, Deidre, this is how my brainstorm looked for the meeting today. This is it.
Wow.
All over the place.
Wow.
And every one of these are stakeholders that has to be addressed. The cruise lines,
Wow.
the airport, the local businesses, the local government, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the SBDC, Bahama House. There's the tour companies. There's the person who wants to sell popsicles. There's the person who wants to do Kong salad. All these things have to be considered today in a 3-hour meeting. How do we make sure that everybody benefits and the process is lean towards the poor man, the middle class, and not the rich? And that's just one meeting today, in addition to 2 others, getting to do about an hour of legal work. And then I already committed to your show, so I had to tell the other ones that I can't make that one. But if I'm just one person serving as a senator and the vice president for the Caribbean parliaments, I can't imagine what it is for someone who is the prime minister or the minister of XYZ. So for those persons who are interested in thinking, oh, you just look good on TV, trust me, this is detrimental to your health, to your business, your love life, and your children. And you see my 4-year-old would come in. You know,
Yes.
I was hosting a session with all of the speakers and presidents of the parliament, from England, Isle of Man, Canada, come straight down the Caribbean, Central America, South America. And while on that call, my rooster decides to come to the window and go cock-a-doodle-doo live. And that thing is unfortunately on YouTube. And the speaker that was from England, everybody, they had a good laugh. That guy's in the islands, yeah? And it was so funny. And I'm like, I have to be home and co-host this thing or chair it because my wife is to work and I have 2 daughters. And what do I tell my kids? Go away, daddy has to do national or international. They don't care. So it is demanding, it is stressful, it is time consuming. You will lose a lot of money, but at the end of the day, I sit down in the comfort, and my families remind me, persons with disabilities now have home, persons are now going to university and BTVI free, persons in the family islands can send their children to Nassau to look for education, and the government is paying $5 for rent. And you see these things and you think, okay, it is making a difference. At the same time, my children are growing. My 4-year-old was born with me in this, and all she wants is her daddy. My 8-year-old now was 3-4-year-old. Well, she was a 2-year-old when I was doing our Kamiko community initiative. She's 8 now, and all she wants is her daddy, and I want them too. So it is demanding, Deidre.
Yeah, it's a lot. I can't even imagine. And you talked about some of your passions, working with the disabled, creating initiatives for persons with disabilities to be able to purchase a lot, own a home, and
Yes.
fighting for persons who would have been killed or during accidents on the road. Those initiatives that you spoke about, but I wanted to touch on your uh, your work in fighting for the rights of women and girls. You didn't talk about that.
Hey, I'm
You
a
didn't talk
girl
about
dad. I
that.
said my claim to fame is
Yes.
I'm a girl's dad. I have
Yeah.
2 daughters, no sons. I have actually no interest in having a son. I am so proud to have daughters, and which is so embarrassing. Prior to me having daughters, I believed in the boys' club. I was quite fine with the boys' club. And now that I have daughters, from the first one I realized, wait a minute, we have to break up the boys' club. Um, I have daughters, and you look around, and I say this, and my wife is very comfortable with me saying this, Deidre. My wife is Trinidadian. I went to school in Trinidad, started my law degree. When my wife gave birth to my daughters, each time they were Bahamian. Imagine that a Trinidadian gave birth to a Bahamian child. But there's Bahamian women who are married to somebody who's not Bahamian. And when they give birth, the child is taking the nationality of the father. The child ain't Bahamian. And you telling me the child has to apply? That's nonsense. There's no way me, a Bahamian man, is any better than any woman who's a Bahamian. There's no way. We are equal. Male, female, Bahamian, we should have equal rights in the law. So I'm an advocate for women and girls, not just in the ability to pass on citizenship. If a man can do it, a woman should be able to do it. But in addition to gender parity, gender equality, if you look at something as simple as your parliament today, look at how many women you have in parliament, you know, and don't tell me, it's enough. When I hear men say, man, that's a lot. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Because from we got independence, who was possible? While Sir Lyndon was held to the front, there were endless women in the background organizing, cooking, planning,
That's right.
sacrificing,
That suffrage movement,
printing,
they were there.
sharing, bringing people out. Thank you. And then the men, we got through the door and we say, hey,
Yes.
Paul, Tom, Dick, we made a boys club. And then the women out there knocking say, gents, hello, gents, y'all forgot us. What about this, us, and that? And someone says to the men in the room, well, we got to let one or two in. So the decision is made. Well, for them to get in, they got to know the secret handshake that only men know. And they got to do a measuring contest, measure your things, which we know they ain't got. And we find every excuse not to empower women to the leadership role. In addition to that, we make the whole issue of running so nasty that you scare off women. Like, that is nasty. They get all underneath your skirt. They bring up everybody's a date before everybody had a child before. But for men, we don't do it. Double standards. So we've made it a dirty game that scares women off. We find every possible way. I again at the Caribbean level, as the vice president, I chaired a session a few months back where Guyana's parliament and Trinidad's parliament were the two guest speakers to the region. And Canada sponsored that session. And the reason why we chose Guyana and Trinidad is because Guyana has passed a law that every political party must offer a minimum of 1/3 of their candidates females, minimum by law. So the PLP or the FNM, the DNA can't put forward their candidates roster unless they have 1/3 of them as women. And I've been agitating for that as well. Senator Darius has joined me from Grand Bahama, and she speaks to the same thing on the floor of the parliament, saying she supports it, she recommends it, that we move to the point where there's a minimum, not a maximum, but a minimum of 1/3. And you see what's happening now when they're rolling out candidates. Look how many women you're seeing. Very few. So I stand up as a man, and then people wonder, what's wrong with him? Why he pushing for women? And I say proudly, I'm a girl dad. I understand what women go through now more than ever. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't appreciate this in my 20s. I'm 41 now, over the last 8 years, 33 pushing for women, but more men are needed. PM, I'm going to say PM Motley from Barbados had invited me to a session she did in Barbados. I think it was 2018 or 2019 on empowering women, after hearing me agitate for the same thing here. And I stood in that room and said to everybody that she had invited from around the world to that session, I looked around the room and it was 90% of the attendants were women. And I said, ladies, I hear you all saying women have to find their voice. I'm a man in this room and I have to say I disagree with you all. Women don't need to find no voice. You all have always had your voice. We need to listen to men. We need to listen. So every time I hear a woman say women need to find their voice, or men say women need to find their voice, women don't need to find their voice. Women have always had their voice. We are, as men in this region, where we are because of women. Women need to find their voice. They've always had a voice. It says that we have not been listening and doing what we ought to have done for women and understand that this is an equal thing. If you look at your households in this country, in the Bahamas, the majority of your households are headed by women. You look at the businesses in this country and you'll see women. You go into a business place and you see women. So women can clearly manage, can clearly lead. So why do we feel politics is a man's game and only men? So I think, for me, again, I'm passionate about it. And I would publicly say, Deidre, that I'm embarrassed that it took me 8 years and having my first child to realize women need more men speaking up for them who can hear their voices and say, we have a lot of work to do for our women. But at the same time, Deidre, in the same vein, I remind you and every other woman, why are you supporting a man who isn't agitating women for women? How you always do it? How you always get up there to say, I voted for him? But what is on his agenda for empowering you as a woman? Nothing. But you all keep putting us men in, and then when a woman comes forward and offer, I like her hair, I like the way she's talk, I like her size, I like the color she's wear. So women, you all have your work to do as well, but definitely as men, and I'm one saying that I'm in full support of more women. I like what Guyana has done with 1/3 minimum. And like I said in that session with all of the world leaders, I bring them to you today to share. The template is there, the precedent is there, the legislation is there, the act is there. Copy it, bring it into your country and pass it. I brought Trinidad to that session because in Trinidad, they passed the law that a husband cannot rape his wife. They passed that law, something Ellsworth and I have been agitating for here. Oh God. Minister Johnson and I have been agitating for here. And I put it to you this way, Deidre. I know we are a religious nation, but there's no way you and I could be married. I leave you in Andros. I come to Nassau. You ain't see me in 5 years. I don't do nothing for the kids. We basically separated, but we ain't married. Then I can come back to Andros, kick in door, woman this mine, and take it. Or me and you live together in Nassau. You hearing all the rumors. I out there sleeping around with Mary, Sue, and Jane. I got all kind of sickness, but yet I want to jump on top of you and you fighting, saying, no, please get tested. We can't be doing this. To me, that shouldn't happen. Women should be able to make decisions for their bodies. And, I'm a man. I love my wife, but my wife should own this thing of surrender yourself to me as your man, as the head. I no longer see it that way. I have daughters. And I will say to you public on a public platform that's recorded and will be played again in years to come. My daughters gave me that call any night 20 plus years from now. Daddy, come. I go in there with a tool, my shotgun, and it ain't gonna be nice. So I will stand up and speak up now that we put laws in place so they ain't gotta call me. And then I make the news. That's it. That's my piece.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And it is clear that we have some work. We have work to do. We have some work to do. I often hear a person say, and when they talk about women in leadership, they say, women are too emotional. They're too emotional to lead. I
Every
don't know.
excuse possible. You need
Yeah.
to be empathetic. You need to be understanding. And I think that's what our people need more than anything. People who can relate. People who
Mm.
could understand. You see,
Mhm.
I didn't watch the debate that happened last week with the young persons um, in the political parties. I only heard all the negative comments about it afterwards. And I asked in one of the clubhouse rooms, I interjected, I said, good night, everybody, sorry. And I didn't get to listen to the debate. But are y'all saying that if someone can't speak properly, they're not good to lead and you don't want to hear nothing from them? Because it can't be that you need to be eloquent, use big words to represent people and make a difference for people. Is some of those very same people who can't find the words to express themselves, but because they care so much, they'll be the best person to lead and make a difference. So when people use that excuse, oh, women too emotional, you need people who can understand, put themselves in that shoe and say, wow, that is sad. How can we fix it? We hear why, we know what we need to do. How can we do it and get it done? I don't know, I guess it's just me, Deidre, but I think um, women would make a difference if we had more women to the table.
I agree. We need a seat at the table, but at the same time, we have to agitate for that seat. You can't sit down quietly
Yes,
and beg. You have to agitate.
yes.
And yeah. And so, Senator Henfield, as you consider your political journey thus far, what are some of your greatest challenges and your greatest rewards?
Whew, greatest challenges. Mm, I have I'm trying to pick my words here, Deidre. I don't have a fear of people and their titles. So I'm comfortable speaking to any leader of opposition, leader of government business, president of this, owner of that, and saying what is the problem, what needs to be addressed. Um, so I can't really say that I've had a challenge with it. What I've learned though is that as an activist, it's okay to be opinionated. But even as an activist, I didn't want to just be opinion. I wanted the facts. Before I open my mouth to say anything, but this, I need to see the facts. And coming into a national leadership role and a regional leadership role, um, I have learned that you can only be factual. You have to be informed. You have to speak from a place of being informed and not just of an opinion. And with that being the case, um, sometimes I find myself coming to a debate or coming to a closed session with the facts and saying, colleagues, I know we're here to discuss X, Y, and Z, and I'm hearing other opinions, and I respect your opinions. But we can't make decisions on opinions. We need to make decisions on data, facts. And this is the data, this is the facts, this is why, this is what we have to do, and this is how. So I don't find myself being challenged. I think I've learned in the last 8 to 10 years of my life to plan things out, think things through, understand there will be repercussions for some things, understand there'll be a lot of sacrifice. But I've also learned now more than ever that national change isn't done like that, Deidre. It is not, as an activist, I felt you could just do X, Y, Z tomorrow. Because use the minister, use the prime minister, use the government. And now I get to realize something as similar as local government. For me to make from our committee to do the report on the reform of local government, Deidre, we had to reach out to Mayor de Blasio's call, come to University of Bahamas and set up a whole Zoom room with the whole committee to speak with his office on how is local government ran in New York. We had to set up a session with the Canadians. We had to set up a session with the English, Europe, or the UK. We had to set up a session with Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Belize, all the way across to New Zealand, the countries in South Africa, all this research and to fine tune to get to Bahamian Mall because none of them is an island or archipelago. And you have to fine tune all this research, roll out. If we do this, how does it affect this, and this? What laws will change? How does it affect this ministry, this department? And you realize, oh, it's not just being opinionated and angry and just saying, you all need to fix it. It is to now sit down and be in charge of how do you fix it? And you anticipate everything that can go wrong, which you'll never do. And you have the plan to address that. And I see it in everything and everything I've listed before, how it impacts another thing. So I've learned that to be informed. I've learned when you are in leadership roles to remember that you're here to make a difference in the lives of people. There's nobody here to serve you. This is not about no title. This is not about no car and that nonsense. This is about making a difference for people. And you just cannot come here thinking somebody's going to come one day and say, hey, man, you did a great job. No, this is not what it's for. I expect people to find something to rip me a new one for next week. And I will get up. I go online, DJ, if you follow my page, I share the comments when people rip me a new one. People say, he's a this and he's a that. And I just comment, I like this one. This was original. I like this one. The rest of y'all who are there ripping me, step your game up. This is it. This person's a standard. And it doesn't bother me. I will share. If someone puts a meme out there about me, I share it to my page. Like, nah, this is a good one. I like this. And I use a nice picture. I like this picture. But go right ahead. But I'm not distracted by it. It reminds me that in anything you do, not everybody will see the vision and not everybody will agree, but you press on anyway. You're damned if you do, Deidre, and you're damned if you don't. So do something that will make a difference for somebody and just take whatever comes with it with the criticism.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And as we close, are there any additional comments that you would like to add?
Nah, I think you asked everything. I'm glad to help.
Thank you. Thank you. And what advice would you give as we close off? What advice would you give to persons seeking to enter the political landscape? You would have talked about the young persons in their debates, in the recent debates that they have. What advice would you give to persons like that who are seeking political leadership?
Be informed. Um, there's a quote that says, a wise man is able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And with that, the way I use that with your question for this reason, when you get into a political party, all the young persons or the other persons who are interested in running, it is so easy to sit down to a table with people who you've idolized and see as the big boys and the big girls in this thing, and everything they say, just go along with it. It's very easy to do that. But a wise man is able to entertain a thought, not accepting it. It's okay to listen to them and then say, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Leader, Madam whoever, I hear you. And that may be how it worked 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But in this day and age, our people don't care about that. We don't want to fish. We want your boat. We will know how to go fish ourselves. You have to be able to stand up to the powers that be, speak truth to power, but do so from an informed place rather than simply an opinionated place. There's enough sheep in politics. I would rather be the lion for one day to stand up and say, that's wrong. This is how it's to be done. And then y'all kick me out, as opposed to me come to the table and be the sheep every day just going along, going along, going along. So if it's two things I'd say to them is, remember that quote, a wise man can entertain a thought without accepting it. And then two, it's better to be a lion for a day than be a sheep for the entire duration of your political year. So speak up, stand up, come from an informed place, and expect criticisms. Don't get mad at nobody who criticizes you. When they criticize you, you got to remember that's their business. That ain't yours. That's what they think of you. That's not what you're doing or why you're here. Stay focused, do what you came to do, and exit. There's some people who like to get in politics and stay forever. I am winding down on my way out. And once I'm done, I will take off this button down shirt and I will be in the yard picking cocoa plum, playing tag, and I'm going to go play. But wind down and move on. Know when to move on. I think one term is enough. Move on.
Thank you for sharing. That's so important as we close. Know when to wind down. We have some persons who've been there for a number of years, so you got to know when the time is up. Yeah. So I would like to thank you for joining us in our session today. You are so
You're
informative
welcome.
and sharing that information, and for persons who may be listening in, who may even be listening on later down. You shared some very important information about your causes and your initiatives and your experience within the political landscape in the Bahamas. So I would like to thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Have a good day.
Thank you. Would you like to share your page? Would you like to share your page?
Oh, I'm on Facebook as Ranard Eric Henfield, and I'm on Clubhouse, same name as Ranard Henfield on Clubhouse as well.
You talked about Clubhouse too, and entering that aspect, because we like to focus on social media, but I know you talked about Clubhouse too, right?
Clubhouse is the plug right now. Trust me. It allows that, just how you and I are having a conversation. That's the Clubhouse platform, which is different from Facebook, which is posting a picture or a bunch of nonsense all day. With the Clubhouse, I'm able to log on right now and speak with the commissioner of the SEC in the US or the member of XYZ government from around the world with hundreds of people, the owners of Clubhouse, the guy from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, everybody, the guys from Tesla. You're able to have those conversations, all of us, right there. Ask any question you want and learn. It's to have access to information. So I love that platform. It's very rare I now even go into the Facebook sphere to just look at memes and forwards all day. With the Clubhouse platform, you're actually having conversations 24 hours a day. So
Thank you for sharing that. And so I will close out our session. I would like to thank our viewers for listening in. Some of you were able to drop in your comments. Thank you for listening in. And I would like to thank Senator Henfield. Comment under this video. Let us know what you would like us to talk about. We have some more sessions on Can We Talk Politics? That's upcoming. And I would like to thank you for joining us today. Thank you and good day. Bye.